Chapter 1. The Empty Wallet. I used to fold my wallet like it was a book with a secret plot, hoping a new page would change the ending. It never did. The bus card was almost empty, the coins were loud, and the notes were few. I worked at a night cafe, wiping tables that stayed sticky no matter how many times I cleaned them. I counted tips like blessings, and felt guilty when they were good, like I hadn't earned them, and guilty when they were bad, like I never would. At home, my room was the size of a long sigh. The mattress touched the wall, the window looked at a brick. I told myself this was a season, not a sentence. I breathed slowly. I made tea in a chipped mug and watched the steam pretend to be fog over a tiny lake. That night, as I lay down, my phone lit up with a message from a name I hadn't seen in years, and I didn't know if opening it would save me or sink me. Chapter 2. The Old Friend. It was Liam. In school, he sat beside me and drew cities on graph paper. He wrote in all caps and believed in big, bold lines. We lost touch after graduation, when life started charging rent. "Coffee?" his message said. "I've got something." I met him near the river where the wind always feels richer than you are. He wore a jacket that looked expensive enough to have opinions. We talked about nothing, then about everything, then about money. "I'm building a small product," he said, "but it needs hands, not degrees. You were always good at seeing patterns." I pretended to be calm while my stomach made small prayers. "What is it?" "A simple app. Lists, reminders, shared tasks, but not boring. Promise, lists. People keep each other accountable." I laughed. "People can't even keep plants alive." He smiled. "Then we help them water." He asked me to come by his workspace the next day. He said he'd pay, not much, but something. When I got home, my boss had left a note on my locker, and I felt the floor move under me before I read it. Chapter 3. The note. "Cutting hours," it said. "Quiet season. Quiet season." The words tasted like dust. My hours were already thin. I held the note as if warmth might drip from it. Nothing did. That night I stood over the sink and rinsed a single bowl as though it were a ritual that could turn me brave. I thought of Liam's jacket, his clean watch, the way he said, "we." I wanted to be part of a "we." I told my mother on the phone. She made that sound mothers make when they try to fold worry into encouragement. "Go see him," she said softly. "Say yes to anything honest." Morning arrived like a promise that didn't sign its name. I went to Liam's workspace, which was not a space, but a rented corner in a shared office that hummed with other people's dreams. He showed me wireframes and a spreadsheet named Runway that had less runway than a driveway. "We launch in 3 weeks," he said. "If it sticks, we raise. If it doesn't, we pivot." Then his phone buzzed, and his smile slipped for the first time. And in that slip, I saw a crack I couldn't unsee. Chapter 4. The Quiet Worry. Liam stepped outside to take the call. Through the glass, I watched his shoulders square up, then slump, then square again. I looked at the wireframes. The app was simple, almost small enough to hold between 2 fingers. Could small save us? When he came back, he was bright again. Too bright. "All good," he said, investors checking in. We worked until evening. I made lists about lists. I wrote tiny sentences that felt like gentle instructions to a messy life. Breathe, drink water, call your sister, keep promises small. On the way home, I had only enough on my card for 1 bus. I walked the last 20 minutes. The air tasted like rain that wasn't brave enough to fall. I liked it. At the door of my building, I found an envelope tucked under the mat. No stamp, no name. My name on the front, in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a single sentence on plain paper. "You're about to get everything you asked for." I looked up and down the hallway, heart tapping like a finger on a table, because I wasn't sure if this was a blessing or a threat. Chapter 5. The Long Week. I taped the sentence to my wall where a poster might go. I wanted to remember how it felt to read it the first time. Hopeful and a little afraid. We sprinted that week. Days were code, nights were cafe. I slept in the small spaces between. Liam kept promising pizza and equity, thick words like they could feed you. On Friday, he introduced me to Ava, a designer with calm eyes and a voice like tea. She carried a notebook that opened like a curtain to a softer world. "We'll soften the edges," she said. "People sleep with their phones next to their faces. We need to be kind." We worked past midnight, and when I left, Ava slipped me a granola bar and said, "For the end of the world." I laughed too hard, maybe because I was tired or because I knew how it felt to expect endings. On the bus home, I checked my bank app out of habit. It wheezed, then loaded. A new line item sat there, glowing like a tiny sun, a deposit I couldn't explain, with more zeros than I'd ever seen. Chapter 6. The Zeros. The deposit wasn't huge by rich people's standards, but to me it was a cathedral, 5 figures, from a sender labeled simply, "Keep Going Fund." I stared at it until my eyes watered. Who? Why? Was it a mistake? I wanted to touch it, but it was digital, slippery as light. I called the bank. The robot voice loved me in a robotic way. A human came on and said the transfer was valid and irreversible. A gift, he decided. Sometimes people are kind. I didn't trust it. I didn't spend a pound. I screenshotted it like a sunset. I told no one. At the workspace, Liam buzzed with launch nerves. Ava brought chamomile and told me to drink slowly. We fixed a bug that hid like a shy animal. We pressed the button. "Live," Liam said, as if he'd opened a door to a new city. The first sign-ups trickled in like rain under a stubborn cloud. We celebrated with cheap, sparkling water. Later that night, as I washed my OnlyPan, my phone dinged. A second deposit arrived, bigger than the first, and this time there was a note attached that said, "Don't tell him." Chapter 7. The Secret Sender. The note lived only for a second on the screen, then it folded itself away, as if it was shy of its own nerve. I couldn't retrieve it, but I had read it. Don't tell him. Don't tell who? Liam? Ava? My mother? Myself? The next morning, Liam's brightness felt heavier, like a lamp with a thick shade. He pushed features we didn't need and snapped at a spinning wheel. Ava watched him like a doctor watches a cough. We got our first paying users, 3 friends who promised to drink water together. "Hydrate, monetize," Liam joked. We laughed and then stopped because Rent didn't think we were funny. At lunch, Ava asked how I was paying bills with cafe hours cut. I shrugged and made a joke about the air having calories. She frowned. "That's not funny," she said softly. That evening, another envelope showed up under my door. Same paper, same neat letters. "You keep your word even when no one's watching. Keep going." My phone buzzed. Liam again, but the message was short. "Need to talk. Don't be late." Chapter 8. The Proposition. He met me at a bar where the lights were low and the music made you agree to things. "I got an offer," he said. "A partner wants in. They can wire cash now, but they want me to clean up cap table. Too many cooks." My name was not on any cap table. My pay had been small, informal. My hope had been the equity he said we'd draft when we had a minute. "What does clean up mean?" I asked. He stirred nothing with a straw. "It means I keep it simple. Me plus them. We'll keep you on contract. I'll make it worth it after we close." My chest went quiet, the way a room goes quiet before a storm. "But we said a lot," he cut in. He smiled the way a door locks. "This is how deals happen. You want to be rich, right?" I stared at the table until the wood grain looked like a river I might fall into. When I left, the night air had teeth. I walked until the city softened. My phone vibrated again, and the message made my knees weak. "He's going to sell you out tomorrow." Chapter 9. The Choice. I didn't sleep. I lay on my mattress while the radiator clicked to itself, like an old friend with secrets. If Liam sold me out, I would go back to the cafe, back to the bus card that coughed at turnstiles. By morning, I had made a decision I didn't like but could live with. I would ask for a contract today, in writing. If he refused, I would walk. Walking is a skill no one teaches you. You learn it when your heart becomes heavier than the room. At the office, Ava looked at me and knew. She always knew. I told her quietly. She squeezed my wrist, then pulled a small envelope from her bag. "Under your door?" she asked. I nodded. "I got one too," she whispered. Inside, hers said, "He owes you more than he'll admit." Before we could speak, Liam arrived with a grin stretched tight. "Good news," he said. "We have a meeting with the partner. Noon." I cleared my throat. "Before that, can we finalize my agreement?" Liam's grin loosened, and the partner opened the door earlier than expected. Chapter 10. The Sudden Rich. The partner wore quiet shoes and a loud watch. He shook hands like a transaction and sat down as if chairs owed him rent. "We can wire today," he said, "if we keep the structure clean." I looked at Liam. He looked at me the way people look at exits. My stomach sank, but my phone buzzed again. I glanced down. A third deposit. Huge this time. Life-changing. From Keep Going Fund. A note. "You're free now. Walk if you need to." My breath went shallow. I wasn't rich, but I had more money than any version of me had dreamed of. Enough to pay debt, rent, and time. Enough to leave without panic. Enough to choose. I looked up, and the room hadn't noticed my explosion. "I can't continue without a contract," I said softly. "If I'm just a contractor, I'll step away today." Liam's face did something I can only call thunder. The partner smiled in a way that had no kindness in it. "Then, step away," he said. I stood. Ava stood with me. Liam's jaw fell, and the partner's smile cracked like thin ice. Chapter 11. The Falling Mask. "Wait," the partner said, turning to Liam. "You told me they were on board." Liam's voice went thin. We were... It's just paperwork." "Paperwork is ownership," the partner replied. "Ownership is control." He looked at me. "What do you want?" I wanted softness. I wanted fairness. I wanted to stop wanting for a minute. "I want dignity," I said, before my brain could edit my mouth. "A contract that matches my contribution, or I'll go." Silence sat down with us. The partner sighed. "We're moving fast. Clean deals only." He stood. "Good luck." He left. The door clicked. Liam stared at me like I had unplugged his life. "You ruined this," he hissed. Ava stepped between us. "We can do this without him," she said, and I realized she was not talking to me. I picked up my bag, my heart, my courage. "I'm leaving." I walked out. The hallway felt like a new country, with oxygen that didn't hurt. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. When you're ready to learn who I am, meet me where the river bends. Chapter 12. The River. The river bend was where Liam and I first sketched dreams on napkins in school. It was also where, years later, he had said, "Coffee?" And now it was where I waited, hands in pockets, trying to look like someone who belonged to the wind. A woman approached, mid-40s, steady posture, eyes that had seen storms and chosen to keep walking. She smiled like an answer to a question I hadn't asked out loud. "I'm Mara," she said. "I run a small fund, not the kind you read about. We invest in people, not decks. We watch how they treat each other when no one's keeping score." "Keep going fund?" I asked. She nodded. "You kept your word when you were tired, and you protected yourself without cruelty. That's rare. We sent the first deposit to see if money would change you. It didn't." I felt something unclench in my chest. "Why me?" "Because you still say please to bus drivers," she said. "Because you don't take more chair than you need." Then her face grew serious. "But there's something else you should know about Liam." And what she told me turned my past into a mirror I couldn't look away from. Chapter 13. The Betrayal. Mara's voice was gentle as rain. "Liam pitched our fund 6 months ago," she said. "He showed us designs that weren't his. They were yours. Old drafts from school. Your handwriting was in the margins." Heat rose in my neck. I remembered the graph paper cities, the way he'd borrowed notebooks, just for the weekend. "We passed on him," Mara continued, "but we started watching you after he mentioned your name. We saw you at the cafe. We saw you walking home late. We saw you bring granola bars to the cleaning staff." I didn't remember doing that. I did it because they were hungry. "I'm not a saint," I said. "Good," she replied. "Saints make bad partners." She offered mentorship, runway, space to build something on my own. No rush, no trap. Start small, build slow, keep your softness. As we talked, my phone buzzed again. "Liam." The message was knives wrapped in silk. "You stole my chance. You'll regret this." I closed my eyes and breathed. The river made that sound rivers make when they're tired of holding secrets. And when I opened my eyes, Ava was standing on the path, watching us.
Chapter 14. The Bridge. Ava had followed me, but not to spy. She had a backpack and a question. "Do you still want to build something with me?" I nodded before fear could vote. Mara smiled. "Good. I'll fund a tiny start, tiny enough to learn fast, big enough to breathe." We rented a smaller corner in a different shared office, one that smelled like warm laptops and second chances. We named our project Quiet Steps. It wasn't an app for productivity. It was a companion for gentle nights, stories for sleeping, rituals for rest, reminders to be human. Our first users were night shifters, anxious minds, parents whose children finally slept. We wrote in small words and soft colors. I borrowed my own heartbeat for the cadence. Meanwhile, Liam launched promise lists with the partner. Ads everywhere, loud copy. For a week, he trended. Then the reviews came. People didn't like being shouted at while trying to improve their lives. One evening, a delivery arrived at our door with no return address. A box full of printed screenshots, each one proof that Liam had scraped our beta and copied our sleep stories word for word. Chapter 15. The Storm. I felt betrayal like a bruise spreading slow. Ava paced, quiet rage pulsing in her temples. "We can fight," she said. "We have timestamps, drafts, emails." Mara joined us on a video call from a lamp-lit room that made her look like a lighthouse. "You have a choice," she said. "Fight loudly and lose time, or build so well they can't keep up. We can also send a letter, firm, factual, no flame." We sent the letter. It was not angry, it was clear. We kept building. We asked our users what made them feel safe at night. They said, "Soft voices, no judgment, a story that doesn't try too hard to be smart." I recorded narrations on my phone under a blanket. Ava drew moons that looked like they had stories of their own. Our app felt like a friend who doesn't need you to talk. Then one morning, Liam's partner went public with a statement. "We are investigating plagiarism allegations." My chest unclenched a little, but that night, as I walked home, footsteps followed mine, and a voice I knew too well said my name in the dark. Chapter 16. The Alley. "Talk to me," Liam said, stepping into the thin light. He looked like a person who had slept beside a storm. "I'm sorry," he started, but the word broke in the middle. "Okay, I'm not sorry. I needed the win." "You had my notes for years," I said quietly. "You could have asked." He shoved his hands into his pockets like he was trying to hide them from himself. "You were always the heart. I was the mouth. Investors like mouths, users like hearts. I thought we could fix it later." I shook my head. "Later never comes." He winced. "They're cutting me out," he confessed. "The partner. I'm the scapegoat. I have nothing." We stood in silence, strangers who used to share a map. Then he said, almost in a whisper, "Who's funding you?" "No one you can charm," I replied. His eyes hardened. "Then help me," he said, "or I help myself." He pulled out his phone and showed me a draft post that could smear us. I felt fear, anger, pity, and something else. And then a car door slammed at the corner and Mara stepped into the alley light. Chapter 17. The Line. Mara didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. "Liam," she said, as if they'd met before. Maybe they had. "If you post that, we'll respond with facts. And if you delete your copies and apologize publicly, we'll let you keep your dignity." He laughed, but it sounded like a cough. "Who are you?" "Someone who believes people can do better on their second try," she said. He stared at the ground. "What about a third?" Mara looked at me. The decision was mine. The past vibrated in the air like a power line in wind. "Delete it," I said to Liam. "Post the truth. We won't drag you." He looked at me for a long time, maybe hoping for a different line. Then he nodded. "Okay," he whispered. The next day he posted, "I copied content from Quiet Steps. I'm sorry. I've removed it." The internet did what it does. Some mercy, some fire. The partner quietly replaced him. Our downloads doubled that week, then tripled. The inbox filled with messages from people who slept for the first time in months. But in the middle of that sweetness, another envelope slid under my door. And this one had my mother's handwriting on it.
Chapter 18. The Call Home.
Inside was a note I'd sent her when I first moved out. She'd kept it and sent it back with a line at the bottom. "You asked for a life that didn't hurt. Are you closer?" I called her. We talked about rice and rent and how pride is a jacket that keeps you warm but doesn't fit forever. I told her about Mara and Ava, about the letters, about the tide turning. She cried a little, then laughed at herself for crying. "Come home for a weekend," she said. "Sleep where the walls know your name." I promised I would. The next morning, a major wellness blog featured us. Then a podcaster called. Then a health insurer inquired about licensing stories for their members. Money started to look like time instead of fear. I sat on the floor of my little room and watched light find its way through the blinds. I had more now, more choices, more quiet, more mornings that didn't begin with panic. And yet, as I packed to visit my mother, my phone rang. Unknown number. A voice said, "This is about your funder." And the way he paused before the next sentence made my skin go cold. Chapter 19. The Reveal. "This is a journalist," he said. "We're running a piece on the Keep Going Fund. We've found a pattern. They help people who've been wronged by someone they once loved." I sat down. The floor held me without asking for rent. "Is that true for you?" he asked. I thought of Liam's theft, of my own old habit of apologizing for needing air. I thought of Ava's steady hands and Mara's lighthouse room. "Yes," I said, "but it's also true that I was helped before I did anything big. They trusted the small version of me." He hummed, "The sound reporters make when they find a better angle." "Thank you." After the call, I walked to the river. The bend had become a page in my life I kept rereading. Mara was there, as if the river sent her my location. "I worry you'll think you owe me everything," she said. "You don't. You owe yourself kindness. You owe others fairness. That's enough." We stood until the wind wrote something on our faces that looked like peace. Then Mara's phone rang, and her expression changed. And she told me someone had tried to access our servers from Liam's old laptop. Chapter 20. The Soft Ending. We tightened security and sent another letter. Not angry, just firm. We moved our content behind doors with better locks and hired a friend of Mara's to watch the windows. I met Liam one last time in daylight, on purpose, at a cafe full of plants. He looked smaller, or maybe I finally saw him at his actual size. "I'm done," he said, "with shortcuts, with sharp corners. I started therapy." I nodded. Good. I meant it. It felt like putting down a heavy bag you'd carried long enough to think it was part of you. Quiet steps kept growing, but I grew slower on purpose. I kept the chipped mug even after I could buy 100 new ones. I sent my mother a key. I paid my debts like love letters to my previous selves. At night, I recorded new sleep stories. Sometimes I told them to the person I used to be, the one who counted coins and whispered please to doors. When I lay down, I looked at the taped sentence on my wall. "You're about to get everything you asked for." I smiled because I had learned the real secret. I didn't get everything I asked for. I got what I could carry without dropping my heart. And then, just as my eyes began to close, my phone lit up with a new message from an unknown number. And it said, "I know who wrote the first envelope."